Hey friends, Dave here with Stahls, and today we are talking all about transfer placement. Now we're going to show you how to nail those standard placements, the center chest, the left chest, and even back prints. Basically, the common placements that decorators use all the time. Now at the end of the day, of course, the goal is to make shirts that people actually want to wear, and placement plays a big part in that. Now we're going to cover a few different methods of transfer placement so you could find the one that works best for you. Now some are fast and simple, kind of right out of the gate. Others, you might have to take a little bit more time to set up, but give you perfect consistency. Now either way, they're going to help you print with confidence and reduce those frustrating and costly misprints. Now they are going to range from using zero tools, right, just hands and eyes, to using placement guides, rulers, and even projectors like the ProPlace IQ. So let's dive in, okay? And I'll show you everything you need to know about placing your transfers for perfect prints every single time. Let's get to it. We're going to start right here at our Hotronix AutoClam 16x20. And the most important aspect of print placement is loading the garment on straight. Now here, we are also using the caddy stand, so we could fully thread the garment onto the press, like opening up a pillowcase and putting it over a pillow, right? Now, we are isolating just one layer of fabric, just like this. Now, if your press isn't threadable or only semi-threadable, no worries. You could still lay the shirt just flat on the press, either like this, or I personally love to have the collar facing me. So I'll lay it onto the press like this. Now this is really nice on clamshell style heat presses because it gives you a lot more working space for this center chest area instead of being in the back here closer to the heating element. Now, once the shirt is loaded, I'm gonna go ahead and open this up and thread it right back on again. We are going to make sure that we are nice and straight. Now, one thing I will check is where the side seams meet the arm. And in some cases, like this shirt that we have, it doesn't actually have side seams on it. So we're gonna check the seams on either side and just make sure that there's this little fold line, this crease on each side, and just make sure it's even and equal distance on each side going back to the back of the flat. Now, we also wanna make sure the collar here is off of the print area. So we have a nice flat printing surface from edge to edge. Tools like the interchangeable tag-along HP platen make this step speedy. With the neck and shoulder shape, it guides the garment onto the press in about half the time to make sure it's on there nice and straight. For our first placement method, we're going to go with a standard center chest print, which is super simple. Now, for a center chest print, we want to ensure that our transfer is centered just like we centered our shirt. Now, one thing we could do here is take our transfer and hold it up and just meet it edge to edge. Regardless if you have a clear carrier or an opaque paper carrier here, we're just gonna crease on the top and bottom right here, and that's gonna give us a center line right on our transfer. Now, I didn't fold any areas where there's ink, as we don't wanna damage them or have them peel off of the carrier. Now, it is super easy to eyeball the transfer placement of transfers that are on a clear carrier. But with paper carrier transfers, like goof-proof screen printed transfers, the paper folding method works really, really well. You just have to hold it up to the light to be able to see the ink through the carrier. Now, once we've found the center, the typical guideline for a center chest print is about 1.5 to 3 inches down from the collar, which is about 3 of my finger widths. If you've ever heard anybody ever say 3 fingers down, this is an industry standard for most of those center chest or full front designs. But it does vary based on the garment size that you're printing on and your own hand size and the print size. But it's a general rule that a lot of people follow. Now, depending on the artwork dimensions and sizing, you could always double check the placement using features on the garment themselves. Now of course, we always want to start by checking the center line down the middle of the shirt. It's usually where the tag is, but I don't trust where they're sewn in because sometimes they aren't sewn in directly in the back. But if we aligned our shirt and we could see that even these like shoulder seams on each side are centered, we know right here in the middle of our platen is pretty centered. Then we're going to trace an imaginary line down all the way on the front of the shirt. Now next, we're going to find the bottom of where the sleeves meet the body of the garment, or essentially where the armpit is. And we're going to draw a line directly across the center of the shirt here. And that's where the center weight of our image should land. Now this does work great for all garment sizes because it adapts to the specific shirt that you are printing. For those taller designs, you might have to place the graphic slightly closer up to the collar so it's not sitting too low. Those dreaded belly prints that nobody wants to wear. And say if you just have a single line of text, like if we just had the falcons here, that's going to be our baseline. So we want the text all above that area. Now this method does take a little bit more time, but gets easier and more accurate with practice. Now if you want to be more precise, of course, you could use placement guides or a simple ruler. Now this is great if necessarily you don't trust yourself yet or you're just getting started. Now these guides are available in sizes infant to adult. Most of the time you'll be using an adult one. Now these tools definitely help ensure you're placing the transfer in the correct distance from the collar. Check that out. 3 fingers right there is the width of this. And this one I got from the application kit over at Transfer Express. If you are just using a ruler, we're just going to measure 3 inches down from the collar, and we can see that even that's too low right here. So we're actually more at about 2.5 down from the collar on our placement right here. But that's using these other seams and features on the garment. Center our transfer here, line it up, and we're good to go. Alternatively, with a placement guide right here, we're going to align it to our collar, and in this case, it does help to have the garment up on the platen, right? And we're going to position our transfer right to it, lining up the center line, and then remove this guide before pressing. It will melt. And then before we press to, we do want to make sure that that collar comes off the platen. And here, just by double checking it with our seams on the side and where our arms meet, it looks perfectly placed right here. Now keep in mind, if you are doing large production runs, these measuring methods can slow you down just a little bit. Even adding 1 minute per shirt on 100 shirts means an extra 100 minutes of work. But if you're just starting out and want those perfect prints every time, these methods are great, and you'll start to be able to eyeball those great placements and perfect placements with more experience that you get. Now, in some cases, you could measure just the first few of the run and get a real good grasp of where to put it, and then you use your eyes to just align and help speed things up with production for those bigger orders. Now, of course, if you are looking for the ultimate precision in placement, let's talk about the ProPlace IQ projector from Hotronics. Now, this tool takes all of the guesswork out of transfer placement because it actually projects your artwork directly onto the garment for perfect placement every single time. Now you see exactly where the design is going to land before you ever even press, and you could easily align it with seams, collars, or any reference points that you need all in real time. Now whether it's a center chest, left chest, sleeve, back, or even some more complex placements, the ProPlace IQ ensures every print is positioned exactly where you want it on every shirt, every time. Now this is, of course, an awesome solution, especially for shops that are really scaling up their heat press department and need both speed and accuracy in their production. It kind of took those laser alignment systems to the next level. Once you have it dialed in, it makes placement virtually foolproof. And it's compatible on the Hotronics Dual Air Fusion IQ for those high capacity and high production shops. Now, if you're after consistent, perfect placement on the larger production runs, the ProPlace IQ is a serious game changer. Now, of course, you could set your placement up manually in the free Hotronics Cloud software by loading in your print file, or you could scan the QR code that's going to be on your UltraColor Max DTF transfer if you have Easy Rip, right? And just use your mobile device, take a picture of that. It's going to open the IQ Cloud, and if you're connected to the same Wi-Fi network as your press, you're going to be getting those perfect placements and the artwork's going to import automatically. Now, if you are using software like Stahls Fulfill Engine, it does have projection and placement built in for the absolute ultimate workflow to scan the production QR code and then have the art immediately recalled at the perfect size and placed perfectly. But next, let's look at our left chest prints. Now, a solid rule that I use for polos is going to be align the print with the bottommost button, typically the second or third button, but we want to avoid going too far to the armpit or too low. Now, when in doubt, a print closer to the middle is more wearable than a print over to the side, and higher is always better than lower. Now, for a pocket print, say on a pocket t-shirt, always align directly above the pocket, centered. Now, I will say I've been printing t-shirts for 15 years, and those pockets are sewn willy-nilly sometimes with a lot of variance. Doesn't matter where you're placing it, you have to match the pocket in those cases or it looks insane. For a standard left chest print on a t-shirt here, we're gonna load our shirt onto the press and use those same rules to make sure we're nice and centered up, nice and straight. Now, if we were printing on, say, a polo, we're gonna slide a mouse pad underneath the shirt here and raise the print area up to avoid any buttons or seams interfering with our press. Of course, that's with polos. Here on our t-shirt, we don't have any buttons to worry about melting. For an adult small shirt like we have here, left chest placement is typically at about 7 inches to 9 inches down from the top seam. Of course, this does depend on the specific artwork of what you have. Now, things are always going to look different laid flat versus on a real person or a mannequin, right? If you are nervous about placement when you have it on press, take the shirt off and lay it flat out on a table or put it on a friend or a mannequin. Then tape the transfer using the thermotape to hold it in place before going to press. And that way you know it is spot on. So we're gonna check our placement here on our friend and see if it lands exactly where it should. Now, alternatively, instead of measuring, I have my own rule using my hands to nail left chest prints every single time. Now, what we'll do is we want to ensure that we do have our collar on the platen so we could see our placement. Now, even when I hold it up right here, I could tell that I'm nice and centered, right? By seeing where these top shoulder seams are. You can see that this one's pulled down a little bit, and you can even see the sleeve seam is about 1 inch onto the platen this way, where this is about 1 inch off. So I'm not centered, right? So we could use those features of the shirt, push this all the way down, much better. And now that I see we're nice and centered where we need to be, I will take where this top shoulder seam meets the collar and draw a line straight down to the back of the press. And then we're gonna do about 3 to 4 fingers down from the collar to the top of the graphic. One other thing, just like how we used the sleeves where they meet the body to make sure our placement wasn't too low, here on a regular t-shirt, my rule is take this sleeve here and we want our graphic to be about 1/4 of the way up the sleeve, or putting it right here on the left chest. An easy way to do that is just half the sleeve and then half it again. And right there is gonna be our center line for our transfer, with the line coming down, puts our left chest print right here. Now, for back placement, we're typically going to place a little bit lower than we did for the front. So instead of that typical 3 fingers to the top of the graphic, we're going to do at least 4. But again, we want it centered across the shoulder blades. So we're going to make that aligned on the imaginary line between each sleeve where it meets the body of the garment and across. That's gonna be our center for the weight of our graphic. Now, I do wanna mention one caveat here. For the back of a hoodie, you are going to want to go lower than those 4 fingers down. And why? Because the hood is going to cover your print if it's too high. Now, a good rule is 5 to 6 inches, depending on the size of your hoodie, down from that hood seam where it meets the garment. Now, we're gonna show you this on the mannequin, and you can see that this print sits just right, not hidden by the hood when it's down. This is very, very important for when you're putting names and numbers on the back of a hoodie. Keep them lower to avoid getting covered by the hood. Most of the time you're wearing a hoodie, that hood is down. We don't want to cover it up, right? Now let's talk about sleeve prints here too. Most shirts have a seam running down the center of the sleeve on the underside, right? So we want to avoid that. But a lot of garments also have a mill fold that right here on the outside, and you could use this as our placement guide. Now, of course, trust but verify. Ensure that that seam is aligned up top with that shoulder seam. Now you could also slide a mouse pad underneath this to raise the print area, or if you have that tag-along HP platen that I mentioned, here's the trick. You just loop it right on up over that tag area, align that fold right there in the middle, and then preheat, we're ready to print. Of course, we are going to need to keep our sizing within about 3 1/4 inches to 3 1/4 inches to be able to use this tag along with a mouse pad or a print perfect pad in there. You could obviously go a little bit larger on the print. Then we're going to place our transfer about 1 finger up from the cuff. That's about a 1/2 inch to a full inch. Not too high, or it's going to end up on the bicep or even up higher on the shoulder. Now we'll press, peel, and just like that, an absolutely perfect short sleeve print. Now I do want to mention too, again, any of the folds on the garment you're going to get on the blank out of the box can be good guides, but we always want to verify. Say here on a sleeve that aligns with the seam up top over the shoulders. Again, trust but verify. Thank you for watching here. I hope you learned how to place transfers for all of the standard locations, front, back, left chest, and those sleeves with confidence. If you want to see us cover some specialty placements, let us know down in the comments, or you could check out some previous videos that we did them on the Stahls TV channel right here. Now, if you've got placement tips of your own, we would love to hear them and keep the conversation going. Drop them in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the bell icon so you don't miss our next video, and make sure to hit that thumbs up if you learned something today. At Stahls, we're always here to support you and your business with the tips, tricks, education, and inspiration that help your business grow. But until next time, I'm Dave. Happy pressing.